Aloha YouTube and welcome back. Professor Untied here, back with the revival of the Art of the Flip series. It has been a minute since we did an Art of the Flip series episode, guys. I think when I checked the videos, the last video that we ever did for this series was in 2017. So 2 years ago in the sneaker reselling world is a long time. And I gotta say, I missed it, man. I missed Professor Untied teaching the Untied Ohana about how to sell sneakers. Like, that was a lot of fun for me. If you guys are new here and you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, basically the Art of the Flip series is where I teach you guys on how to resell sneakers. There is a lot of basic information that we go over, there's more advanced information that we go over, but ultimately the goal is the same. If you guys are interested in starting to sell sneakers and trying to build up collections like this by selling sneakers, then this is the videos that you guys want to watch. I know a lot of other YouTubers are scared to talk about the topic of reselling. However, that is not the case for this channel, man. I built all of my sneaker stuff and this entire YouTube on the fact that I resell mystery boxes. Now, before we get into it, I do want to mention that this first video is going to be a little bit more basic, and I'm going to be going over the main basic concepts of how to sell sneakers. So for some of you more advanced guys out there, I'm letting you know that this probably is not the video for you. However, there is a good amount of knowledge in here that maybe you guys can take away something from. So hopefully you guys stick around and watch the video the whole way through. But this one will be tailored for the newer audience and the guys that really just want to start with their first step into the sneaker resale world. So I think it's time we get into it, right? So sneaker reselling changes every single year. What worked back in 2017 may not work here in 2019. Because the sneaker scene is different, there's going to be different apps you can sell on, there's different avenues to sell, and just because markets flux all the time in terms of what is hype. With that being said, there is one big concept that we're going to be going over today, and a talking point that I hope you guys can drill into your heads when you guys are thinking about sneaker resale. And this is a common mistake that I see a lot of newer people selling sneakers always asking. They're usually saying things like, I'm seeing that these shoes are super limited, there's only 100 pairs made, so the resale has to be crazy, right? I should definitely try to cop this one, right? Hold tight there, buddy, because you forgot another key concept of how to sell sneakers. Just because a shoe is limited doesn't mean it will resell. The only factors that dictate high resale value and the best potential profit that you guys can make is, one, low stock. However, you also need the second component, which is high hype. Hype is important, guys. This is not about supply and demand, which is a business concept at the commercial level of selling sneakers. It doesn't work on the aftermarket for selling sneakers because it's not the same thing. I know a lot of people get confused by that wording, but if you guys actually look at the definition and the business principle of supply and demand, it doesn't match up to what we're talking about. So cut that. It is not about supply and demand. It is all about supply and hype. Not supply and demand, supply and hype. Again, to reiterate, the optimal level that you guys want to reach for maximum resale potential is low supply and high hype. When not a lot of a shoe is being made and there's a lot of hype generated around that shoe, that typically means that there will not be enough shoes to satisfy the consumer. And in those cases, that's where people will spend extra money on top of the retail value on the aftermarket so that they will be able to get that shoe. And once a shoe is sold out, that's typically it. So that's literally the only option you guys have left, because you won't ever have a chance to get that sneaker again unless they retro it, but you never know when that's going to happen, and typically that happens years and years down the line. That's kind of a long time to wait, and most people can't wait that long, so they're willing to pay an extra $300, $400 on top of retail in order to secure that pair now while the hype is real. A shoe is only worth how much someone will pay for it, and trust me, people will pay for hype sneakers. Now I'm going to bring up some examples right here of some current shoes that are trending right now. I'm actually filming this in August 2019, so whenever you guys are watching this, it may or may not be relevant at that point, but the current shoes that are trending now, and I'll show you guys how supply and hype affects markets right now. And currently in the year 2019, the world is run by Jordan 1 Travis Scotts. It's been crazy this year for Jordan 1 Travis Scotts, and the hype is definitely real for that sneaker, making it the perfect example of what we were looking for: high hype and low supply. Now let's focus on the supply aspect. Most of the places, like the news sources and stuff, are saying that there was an estimated 20 to 40,000 pairs of Jordan 1 Travis Scotts made, which is not enough sneakers to satisfy the demand that was generated by these shoes. If you guys want to compare it to typical Yeezy drops, a typical Yeezy drop will have about 80 to 90,000 sneakers, and that is still always a sneaker that's sold out at 80 to 90,000 pairs. So you can imagine at 20 to 40,000 pairs, it's even more limited, making it more coveted, making it more hype. So this will check off that low supply metric. Next, we can talk about hype. The marketing hype was insane for the Jordan 1 Travis Scotts. I think Travis Scott actually previewed it at some of his shows earlier in the year, and maybe even back in 2018, but people saw the shoe, and it's a Jordan 1 model, which is one of the best silhouettes you can use to resell sneakers. So it was a big deal, man. So what happens when that high hype meets low supply? That is right. money. These shoes retailed for $160 and now they're going on the aftermarket for some at $1,800 plus. And this is in a span of 2 or 3 months, which is absurd. Like, you guys don't see that kind of blow up in value like ever. That's a very, very rare thing to see $160 turn into $1,800 basically in a span of a couple of months. Like, that's crazy. And that is why high hype and low supply is important, guys, because you can reach numbers like this when both of those factors meet up. Not bad for just selling one pair of shoes, right? That will pay some people's rent for a couple months, dude. So you guys can see the benefit of selling sneakers now. However, I want to let you guys know that that perfect storm of high hype and low supply is far and few between in the sneaker world, man. There's a lot of dud drops and there's a lot of different examples that we could go over in which it's like a lot different than high hype and low supply. So I'll give you guys another example of what high hype and high supply looks like and what kind of resale values you guys can expect from that. Now, another shoe that released in 2019 and a big one in terms of hype was the Jordan 4 Bread. This was a highly hyped shoe because this is like a shoe that was retroed back, I believe, 8 years or so or something. It was a long time since the last pair released. 7 years, I think. It's highly touted as one of like the classic Jordan 4 colorways, and it's just that bread colorway which everybody enjoys no matter what Jordan it's on. So a lot of people are thinking, well, there's a lot of hype over here. I can just cop Jordan 4 Bread and make a bunch of money, maybe like make $100 off of it. Not so fast over there, man. We can take a look at our chart again. So the high hype is checked off. You guys know the Jordan 4 Bread is hyped. People want a pair. That's good. However, we also need to look at the supply factor. According to estimates, I was seeing that there was about 285,000 pairs of these Jordan 4 Breads on the market. We were just talking about the Jordan 1 Travis Scott, which had about 20 to 40,000 pairs, and I did have a quick mention that Yeezys are about 80 to 90,000 pairs. We're talking 285,000 pairs, guys. That is a bunch of sneakers on the market. Like, that's a lot of shoes. Even though the global demand still was over 285,000 and all of these shoes did sell out, there were still enough people that only copped to resell that were flooding the aftermarket. Those people were basically selling the shoes for about $240 where they retailed for $200. And when you guys factor in shipping and stuff, that would probably be about $220 after all is said and done. And then after fees, if you guys are selling on an app like GoDaddy, that's another $20 or so. So basically, your $240 sale turned into $0. Yeah, it's not always about hype. High hype alone will not sell sneakers. Now we can get into the last example that I want to talk about today, which is these sneakers are very limited. There's low supply. However, there's also low hype. Now, the Jordan 14 Supreme is a good example of this. It released, I believe, in 2 or 3 different colorways on Supreme, and some on Nike as well. And I mean, it has Supreme in the name, so you guys would assume that Supreme, it should have good resale value, right? Not so fast. Stock is always low for Supreme, so you guys already know that you can check off that metric that there's low supply, so hopefully there will be a lot of high resale value on these things. And the fact that you can only cop from Nike and Supreme makes it even more like limited. So you would think that this is a good shoe to resell just because it's limited. However, even though these were limited shoes, they didn't do anything in terms of resale. In fact, if you guys bought this shoe at a retail on release day, you probably lost money on it if you tried to resell it on the aftermarket. But Professor Untied, they were limited. They were supposed to resell. What the heck happened? Good point. However, you missed the key component where there was no hype behind it, man. It's a Jordan 14 model, which is typically not a very hype sneaker like model in general. Plus, it just was like very flamboyant and not very good looking at all. So not a lot of people were wanting it. I didn't see a lot of hype generated. So in summation, supply and hype is everything, guys. I know it is a kind of basic concept, but I want you guys to be aware that just because there's low supply doesn't mean a shoe is going to sell. Just because there's high hype doesn't mean a shoe is going to sell. You need a factor of both of these things and to just be vigilant with the market and whatnot, which we will touch on in future episodes in order to make money selling sneakers. And the second mantra I want you guys to have is to think always one shoe at a time. Low supply, high hype, and also one shoe at a time. You guys don't need to buy in bulk in order to make money. Imagine if you copped just one Jordan 1 Travis Scott. You would have enough money to cover, like, I don't even know, 2 or 3 beater boxes. So don't worry, guys. You only need to focus on one shoe. You don't need a lot of money for that. $160 was what the retail price was. So even if you guys don't have a lot of funds, it's still possible. Anyway, this is the first episode of many, and I'm glad you guys stuck around to the end to watch Professor Untied teach his lecture, man. I really enjoyed these episodes, and I'm hoping that you guys take something away from this one. There will be more in the future, so don't forget to hit subscribe down below if you guys want to watch those episodes. Also, if you guys are hyped for the return of the Art of the Flip series, don't forget to hit that like button down below. But until then, stay humble, stay blessed, and I will see you on the next episode, guys. Aloha. Shoot!